Bienvenidos a Discapacidad Televisión. Recuerda suscribirte para no perderte los últimos estrenos y programas en vivo. Danos un me gusta, y así nos ayudarás a conocerte mejor, y saber qué programación es tu favorita. Por favor, no te olvides de compartir. Así, más personas podrán disfrutar de Discapacidad Televisión y toda su programación.
¡Hola, mundo!
Muchas gracias.
¿Conoces los programas que conforman a la CNDH? 6. Atención a personas con discapacidad. Este importante programa, perteneciente a la primera Visitaduría General, trabaja de manera conjunta con organizaciones de la sociedad civil y dependencias de los 3 órdenes de gobierno, a través de la promoción, difusión, orientación y acompañamiento en casos de presunta vulneración a los derechos humanos de las personas con discapacidad. Además, realiza investigaciones, informes y diagnósticos acerca del estado que guardan los derechos humanos de este sector de la población, a fin de dar a conocer las áreas de oportunidad, coadyuvando con la asertiva toma de decisiones en pro de la inclusión. Si consideras que tus derechos han sido vulnerados, acércate a nosotros. En la Comisión Nacional de los Derechos Humanos, defendemos al pueblo.
Logo Instituto Nacional para Ciegos.
Hola, soy Alejandro. Al igual que yo, muchas personas ciegas y con baja visión utilizamos lectores de pantalla y magnificadores de pantalla para navegar en diferentes documentos, páginas web, redes sociales y otros contenidos digitales.
Dirección, carrera 13, signo de número 3491.
Pero no todos los contenidos digitales son accesibles. A veces no podemos consultar información en línea, consultar información bancaria, agendar citas o adquirir otro tipo de servicios en la web. Las imágenes no cuentan con texto alternativo comprensible.
Imagen.
El texto es demasiado pequeño o tiene colores difíciles de distinguir. Por eso es importante que todos los contenidos digitales sean publicados con criterios de accesibilidad para que todas las personas puedan acceder de forma autónoma e independiente sin importar si tienen o no una discapacidad.
Computador portátil con la biblioteca virtual para ciegos abierta.
La accesibilidad nos permite a todos aprender, trabajar, comprar productos en línea, conocer la información de servicios, nuestras facturas digitales y disfrutar del mundo digital. Instituto Nacional para Ciegos, INCI. Aparece el logo del Instituto Nacional para Ciegos, INCI, y sus redes sociales, www.inci.gov.co.
La Universidad Católica Boliviana San Pablo abre sus espacios educativos promoviendo medidas de acción positiva que favorece la inclusión en la educación superior de personas con necesidades educativas específicas, a través del área de inclusión, discapacidad y equidad, la cual facilita el tránsito adecuado en el acceso, permanencia y salida exitosa de sus estudiantes. Promueve la actualización en la formación docente sobre la temática. Desarrolla e implementa mecanismos y estrategias de apoyo equitativo en el aula. Aplica el modelo social de la discapacidad para transformar culturas y prácticas inclusivas. Todos los días en la Universidad Católica Boliviana trabajamos con entusiasmo, creando sinergias en la comunidad universitaria por la igualdad de oportunidades con responsabilidad y respeto, sobre todo personas.
Las y los adolescentes y jóvenes con discapacidad pueden tomar decisiones sobre su sexualidad. Sí, las personas adolescentes y jóvenes con discapacidad intelectual, física, auditiva, visual y psicosocial tienen el derecho de vivir plenamente su sexualidad. El goce de sus derechos sexuales y reproductivos está garantizado en varias leyes nacionales e internacionales. Si ellos lo necesitan, pueden contar con una persona de confianza, que puede ser un familiar o un amigo o amiga, para que les apoye cuando tomen decisiones. Pero absolutamente nadie puede decidir por ellos, independientemente del tipo y el porcentaje de su discapacidad. Para orientarse mejor, deben contar con servicios de salud pública que garanticen información accesible, que incluya, por ejemplo, lengua de señas, señalética en braille y materiales informativos de fácil lectura.
Discapacidad Televisión.
¡Hola, mundo!
Primer canal de televisión dedicado al colectivo de personas con discapacidad desde 2006. A continuación, Footless UU, más allá de una amputación. Presenta UU BECKWITH. Características de este programa. Audio en inglés, subtítulos en castellano.
But if a doctor tells you that you're gonna be feeling okay 2 days after sinus surgery, they have never had sinus surgery. Hello there, my beautiful, lovely, delightful internet friends. Welcome back to my channel. I am making this video for 2 reasons. Number 1, if you are someone who is facing any type of sinus surgery, I wanted to give you a first-hand and personal account of what it's actually been like, because the expectation that was set for me versus the reality of what it has been like differ a little bit. And secondly, I wanted to give an update to you, my lovely audience, my lovely watchers who have been so kind to ask how I am doing. Now, it doesn't look like it because I think my doc did a pretty good job at all of this, but I did have extensive, I guess, sinus surgery 10 days ago. They went in there and fixed a double deviated septum. Deviating once was not enough. I needed to do it twice because I'm extra like that. An impressively large bone spur blocking one of my nasal passages, a cyst that was lodged in one of my nasal cavities, and also to generally reduce a lot of the issues in there like swelling and turbinate reduction and open things up so the sinusitis that I've been dealing with for months could properly go away. Now, I am not new to surgical life. I've had my leg cut off twice, a wide variety of ankle surgeries, wrist surgery, knee surgery. Like, I don't want to brag, but I feel like I am semi-pro at the surgery game. So knowing that I was gonna have this, like, I knew what I needed to do to prepare. I asked, for like an estimate of recovery times, and I was told approximately 2 days, to take off until I could go back to work, and 2 weeks of maybe some mild discomfort, and then at 4 weeks, all the swelling in there would really have gone down enough that we would know if it worked, know some of the benefits. It's like, cool, okay, that sounds relatively easy. That's like the simplest surgery I've ever had. No. Wrong. So there are 2 possibilities here. Either I have been a big baby about the surgery, which is possible, or those healing times that I was given were not exactly accurate. So the surgery itself is actually fantastically simple and fast. I didn't even have to get in a full-up hospital gown. They let me actually go in my normal clothes because they're just working here up. It took about a half an hour from my understanding, which is insane how quickly they can do stuff. And then after coming out of surgery, waking up from the anesthesia, all that good stuff, I was able to go home. Same day. Very simple. And I was fully prepared to focus on just resting those 2 days and then get back at it. But when day 3 came around, I was still having serious pain. I had a really hard time sleeping. I couldn't really do much throughout the day aside from lay around. I needed to be on pain medication, and by day 3, my doctor called me to check on me, and I was like, I am still having a lot of pain. Did something, is this normal? And his response was like, oh yeah, absolutely. You're gonna be feeling like crap for at least a few more days, which was confusing. So maybe something got lost in translation, I'm not sure. But if a doctor tells you that you're gonna be feeling okay 2 days after sinus surgery, they have never had sinus surgery. A week and a half out, I'm still having difficulty sleeping at night because I get a lot of pain, especially on one side. My nose will randomly start bleeding, just bleeding out of nowhere, especially if I'm bending over something. My keyboard took the full brunt of that, as did one of my couch cushions, but I've learned to control my head positioning for the time being as I continue to heal. If you are ever gonna have sinus surgery, one tip that I would pass on to you is to have a humidifier close by, because you become a lot of a mouth breather because breathing through your nose is either not possible or very uncomfortable. So having a humidifier near me as I'm trying to, you know, sleep at night and breathe through my mouth was really helpful in not having like a sore throat from dryness waking up. So kind of taking a sidestep, one thing that I did identify as I was feeling like I was taking a long time to heal, a long time to get better, because it was taking like days past the initial projection, I started feeling a lot of guilt for having pain, a lot of guilt for feeling so crummy, because an authority figure had told me I should feel better by a certain day number. And I realized that once I was past that day number, I started to feel like I was somehow like failing or weak for still having pain. And this is something I felt with every surgery I've ever had. Like, I really pay close attention to those like timelines that are given. And if my body doesn't happen to line up with that given timeline, I feel like I've done something wrong. And I had a lot of time over the past week and a half to reflect on that and realize how very unhelpful at a minimum that type of thinking is. Like, if my body's hurting, my body's hurting. I do generally kind of have a hard time bouncing back after surgeries. I think anesthesia kind of messes with my system a bit, like it does for many of us. And I felt really guilty and like I was somehow cheating by continuing to like listen to my body's signals and take time to rest, when in reality, that's exactly what I should be doing. Like, there's no shame, actually no shame, in taking a break and stepping back from things and taking things easy until you actually are physically capable of something. I spent so much of my life pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing because I felt like that's what I needed to do, because I wanted to be a strong person. I wanted to get through things quickly and good. And I think I've ended up hurting myself more often than I've actually known by allowing that mindset to like perpetuate and pushing until I'm so exhausted or in so much pain that I can't do anything else. Like, it was like this big realization for me that like, oh, I'm allowed to take care of myself so I don't get to that point and I don't have to feel guilty about it. And so this last 10 days has been a really good chance to kind of put that into practice and play around with resting before I absolutely have to, taking time away from work that I feel like I should be working because of this internalized sense of capitalism and always needing to be productive, and just like putting that on hold for a second and being like, no, what my body needs right now is to recuperate from this thing that has been done. And you know what? A day or two more in the grand scheme of things is literally nothing. So here on day 10, I feel my energy waning the further I get into this video, so I will be wrapping up shortly to take care of my body. But I got up, I took a shower, I got dressed, I put makeup on, I straightened my hair, and I'm feeling like I could probably conquer the world right now. There is still a lot of like discomfort and occasional spikes of pain, especially on one side, but all in all, I'm doing great. I'm so grateful to everyone who has been checking in on me. And also, if this is a surgery you're facing, know that it is not a super easy one. Like I said, I'm not new to the game of surgeries. This was very uncomfortable and did include a lot of pain, a lot of bleeding in the first couple days, and is still not comfortable almost a week and a half later. Like, if you're facing a surgery like this and you're like me, I might recommend that you plan for like at least 2 weeks until you're maybe feeling like good, you know? I'm really excited to see what this surgery is gonna do, because I've had these underlying issues for apparently a very long time, but I never knew. I'm curious if maybe relieving some of the extensive sinus issues that I was having will have an effect on the migraines that I have and the headaches that I get, because those things can be very intertwined. And so as I continue recovering from this, I'm really hopeful. And I think this is one of the most cut and dry surgeries I've ever had, where it's not complicated, it's not complex, it's not experimental, it's not, we'll see if this works. It's, these are problems, we know how to fix this, and we're gonna get it done. And that is a breath of fresh air, and I'm really grateful for it. Over the past decade of my life, I have spent literally countless hours in doctors' offices hearing everything looks fine, we still don't know what's wrong, and being referred to another specialist. I won't bore you by recounting all of the different things I have tried and all the specialists I have seen, but I can tell you that if you were to add up all the hours in my life, it would be a substantial percentage that was spent trying to find an answer to what is wrong with my body. If you're new to this channel, hello there, my beautiful internet friend. Welcome, it is lovely to see you here. I expected to be making a video today titled something like "Finally a diagnosis!" ! But instead I have something very different for you. About a month ago, I released a video in which I mentioned I finally thought I had a diagnosis, but I wasn't ready to share that yet. The reason I wasn't ready to share that yet is because I was emotionally processing it, but also because they were running one final test to make sure that they were confident that this was my diagnosis. For the majority of my life, I have never been physically okay. I am in pain every day in various parts of my body. I'm fatigued a lot. Sometimes I'll wake up and feel like I was hit by a train when I did literally nothing the day before. I always have abdominal pain that I've had exploratory surgeries for that never had an answer. I deal a lot every day with headaches and chronic migraines, which mean they get 15 or more every month. There's a lot of other random little symptoms thrown in there that have always seemed so unrelated and random and bizarre. When I get sick, I get really sick. But the problem with healthcare in America is that they refer you to a different specialist for basically everything. So when you have a complicated diagnosis, it can sometimes take literally years to ever get to someone who is actually willing to look at the whole picture. And that's definitely been the case for me. And last month, I finally made it to the right doctor to see. He happened to be a rheumatologist who looked at the scope of my history, everything put together, and said, "You have fibromyalgia." Like, that is what everything points to here. However, because fibromyalgia is diagnosed by ruling everything else out, there are a few more tests I want to run just to make sure. But I am confident that this is what you have. And so I had a beautiful emotional breakdown that day. I spent time in my car just sobbing in tears after the appointment because I'm like, oh my God, I'm not crazy. Like, there is actually something wrong. And it's terrifying when something's wrong. It's scary when it's something that is not curable, that you will deal with the rest of your life. But I have spent the last decade of my life dealing with something that didn't even have a name or a face. I had no direction to go in and was sort of just fumbling my way through the waters of American healthcare, which is a nightmare, trying to find some kind of relief or answers. And yesterday I had the appointment to follow up on the results of the test and receive what I thought would kind of be the official diagnosis. However, that's not at all what happened. What I heard instead is that it's a presumed diagnosis, as in we're going to treat it as if it is that, but it's not actually diagnosed. He said he's confident, again, that I do have it, but there's one of the major kind of implications of it that I don't really experience that often, so he's not willing to really call it that just yet. We're going to keep looking into different things, and if you don't have a history, desperately, I know I've used that word before in this video, but I mean like desperately looking for answers and thinking you finally found it, having a doctor say, hey, I think you probably have this, we're going to treat it like it is, but you know, I'm not actually going to call that because I'm not entirely sure that it is what it is yet. That might seem pretty insignificant and like, okay, well that makes sense. But when you think you have an answer, when you're someone who has dealt with shit for many, many, many years, it's devastating. I know that sounds like a really big word, but here's the thing. I've thought a lot over the last month about what a diagnosis actually means. I meant to make a whole separate video about this, but we're gonna fit it into this one. Being able to have a word, a name for what you are going through allows you to kind of wrap your hands around it and be like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. I am dealing with fibromyalgia. I am dealing with PTSD. Like, I'm not crazy, right? And I felt crazy for so long because I would go to doctors and urgent cares and emergency rooms and have everybody say everything looks fine, you're a perfectly healthy 20, 25, 29-year-old, and I'd feel like I was a waste of people's time as I was really suffering and having a very difficult time existing in this body and feeling like a fraud, feeling like maybe I am nuts, having people suggest that maybe it was all in my head. After I'd been hospitalized for 5 days, they just suggested it was like, maybe it's just anxiety, maybe you should talk to someone, you know, about your brain, because with a few days of testing, we can't find anything wrong with your body, which means, I mean, we know everything in the world, so you just must be crazy, right? Like, that is often the response when you are someone who repeatedly goes to doctors for answers and they can't find them. In no way am I downplaying the very real connection that things like anxiety, PTSD, depression, all kinds of mental illnesses can have on your physical body, because they do, but those are things that I've examined extensively, received therapy for, found solutions for, and got a lot better for. I think another reason why it can be so helpful to have a diagnosis is because it lets you take it seriously. What I mean by that is, over the last month, I was kind of walking around with the assumption that I have fibromyalgia. So I really researched it, I looked into it, I looked into what helps and what doesn't, and started doing those things. I started actually allowing myself the space to take care of myself, because I'm like, something is actually different about my body, and I can respect that. I can make more time to rest. I can intentionally cut out stress in my life because that's what my body needs and it honestly helps. I can make time every day to stay active and move because low impact exercise really does help me feel better. And so I started doing all these things that were really good for me. I started doing, like, really taking time for myself and taking care of myself and not feeling horrible about the fact that I wasn't functioning like a normal person. Like if I had a lot of pain or I was really exhausted or couldn't think straight, there wasn't like all this guilt and blame of like, you should just get over it, because I'm like, something's wrong. And I can respect that, and I will allow myself the space to take care of myself through this. And obviously, those are things that can be done regardless of having a diagnosis or not, right? But I think the reason why I have such a hard time not being diagnosed is because it becomes so difficult to trust yourself. It becomes really difficult to advocate for yourself. It becomes really difficult to be like, these are the things I'm experiencing and they aren't normal, because those things don't make sense to other people. I guess at the end of the day, I feel like the very real physical experiences that I have are not valid because they can't be put into a category. And when I say that out loud, I know that that's not actually true, but it sure as shit is how it feels. It feels crushing. It feels like I'm just a crazy person. It feels like I must be making it all up because it doesn't show up on a scan anywhere, right? Like when I thought I had this word for it, it became exponentially easier to have compassion towards myself. Because prior to that moment, for 10 years, I was just dealing with a lot of stuff that no one could ever figure out, and so I forced myself to power through. Oftentimes I wouldn't pay attention to very real signals my body had or give it the time it needed to recover from stuff because I'm like, it should work. It should work. Like nothing's wrong with me. No x-ray or MRI or CT scan or blood work or whatever else has ever shown anything wrong. So be a freaking normal person, Joe. Just do it. Just power through. Ooh, I just spilled coffee on the couch. I don't care today. I feel like I definitely shouldn't need a label to take myself seriously, and that's probably something I should address in therapy. But it's hard to know or even sometimes want to take care of myself when I don't know what's wrong. And here's the thing, getting diagnosed, like getting a diagnosis of you have fibromyalgia, an incurable condition that makes life kind of suck for people, like that's not good news. Like I understand that. It's not good news. It's not something I'd celebrate, but it was something that I was so excited to hear when I thought that was the answer, right? Because it was an answer, and having an answer is better than not having an answer in most situations, at least for me. I think another big perk of having a diagnosis is that other people take you seriously, and perhaps that is one of the biggest things here. Like I think that the biggest issue is actually having a word for it would help me, but right below that is having something that other people can understand, rather than saying, I honestly feel poorly all the time in varying degrees. Some weeks I'm okay. Some weeks I am completely disabled. Not by my leg at all, but by the things that my body does to me, how I feel, how sick I feel and exhausted and in pain and just can't think straight, all of that. Like being able to say, I have this disease, which is a valid thing, which is a legitimate thing, which you can look up, which you can read about, which has actual symptoms that I have, like it's flaring up. That's the reason why I'm feeling this way. That's the reason why I can't make it, or that's the reason why whatever. But not having like a package to deliver that to other people with, talking to doctors in future situations and being like, and I also have fibromyalgia, that'd be like, okay, I get it. That means you probably experience these things, instead of me having to be like, yeah, let me go through my list of symptoms that's about a mile long and have you get bored by the time I'm done. People, myself included, understand things a lot better when there is a title or a label for them. It doesn't mean that it's less valid if it doesn't have a name, but we sure like names and labels for things because as humans it helps us process and cope and understand information. And here's the thing, I trust the doctor I'm with. I understand that he's doing what he's doing for a reason. It's very probable I probably do have fibromyalgia. We're gonna treat it like that. At the end of the day, this is not the video I wanted to make, but I did want to share a little bit about what it feels like to continue to be undiagnosed as someone who is chronically unwell. And we are treating this as if it is fibromyalgia, like we're gonna try to address a few different things a few different ways, but for the time being anyways, I remain undiagnosed. But what I'm gonna try to do, here's where I like try to put a positive spin on things, even though I am not feeling positive at all in this particular moment. I'm going to attempt to carry what I felt the past few weeks forward with me of making space to actually take care of myself. And that's hard to do because there's a part of me that already feels my brain slipping back into the like, well, there's nothing actually wrong with you, Joe, so just do it. Just do all the things. Just completely ruin your body because you feel like it should work a certain way and it doesn't. But I'm going to do my best to acknowledge that voice, let it say what it needs to say in the background and not listen to it, and actually continue to do the things that I know help me, that I know enable me to be able to do more by resting more, by actually caring for myself more, by investing in personal stress management and removing large sources of stress from my life, by staying physically active, by experimenting with different diet things that could potentially help. So for now, I shall simply focus on what I can control because that's all any of us can do anyways. Thank you for listening. Really, thank you for listening. I think it's important to have those real conversations. I think it's important to say, hey, I'm a disabled person, but I think I have a problem with disabled people. Well, hello there, my beautiful internet friends. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me here today, where we are going to be talking about the fact that I, as a real life disabled person, have come to realize I think I have a problem with disabled people. So at the core of what we're going to be talking about today is really taking a look at ourselves and growing and learning new things and changing even when it's uncomfortable. So with that intro, I want to introduce you to our sponsor today, Skillshare. Skillshare is a website you've probably heard about. I've talked about it before. They're one of my favorite sponsors to work with because I legitimately use this website sometimes every day, at least once a week, to learn new skills. The majority of what I do for my job is creative, but sometimes I find it difficult to balance being creative with being productive. And so there's a course that I'm in the middle of on Skillshare right now that addresses exactly this. It's called Productivity for Creators, and it is one of the many classes that you would have full access to with your Skillshare membership. Something I'm very excited to tell you is that I have partnered with Skillshare to allow the first 1,000 people who click the link in the description to get a free trial of Skillshare Premium. After that, it's about $10 a month. Again, this is a site that I would highly recommend. I personally use it. Check it out, let me know what you think. And now back to talking about a different form of personal growth. If you are new to my channel, hi, my name is Joe. I am a below the knee amputee. This is a recent addition to my life, or subtraction, as of 2.5 years ago. Prior to that, I always had issues. I was having surgeries and chronic pain and chronic illness issues, but none of it was necessarily visible. Like if I wanted to blend in with normal society, I could definitely do that. And since becoming very visibly different, very visibly disabled, I've gone through this process of sort of adjusting to how the world sees me. And I've been thinking, you know, I've done a decent job of that. But recently I've realized that I have extraordinary discomfort calling anything ableist. Like, as I say that word right now, I want to edit it out of the video because I'm like, ew, gross. No one wants to hear about that. No one wants to talk about that. Ugh. If you don't know, ableism, like many other isms, racism, sexism, classism, is favoring one group of people over another. So ableism is looking at able-bodied people and sculpting the world for them more than for disabled people. You see this in work opportunities, education opportunities, access opportunities. And coming from the background where I had the ability to sort of blend in with able-bodied people, even if I wasn't technically one of them, I know how people think about disability because they spoke freely around me. I know the comments and the jokes that are made. I know the sometimes lack of care or concern that people who are not disabled have about those who are disabled. I know kind of the exclusionary mindset that can come along with that of it's just easier not to care, it's easier not to make something accessible, it's easier not to have those conversations. And now I've crossed the fence over to the group of people who are seen by the rest of the world as disabled. But here's the thing, I still carry the 27 years, I just spilled my tea. We all knew that was gonna happen, didn't we? I gesture way too much with my hands. I still carry those almost 3 decades of experience being someone who is not seen as disabled. And as I have entered into the disabled community, which is really just an umbrella term for anything that is not able-bodied, I've realized that I have an extraordinary amount of discomfort actually letting myself identify that way, actually letting myself be seen that way. There are so many things that I do and that I've done to still be seen and be treated like an able-bodied person. A lot of the content that I've created is about normalizing being an amputee and life as an amputee and educating people because I believe that's a really good thing to bring awareness and to answer people's questions, to kind of lower the stigmas and all of that. But one of the things that is fueling that is not wanting to feel different, is not wanting to not be in the in crowd. And the in crowd in this case is those who are able-bodied. I think I'm very palatable to people who are not disabled, to people who have no experience with disability, because I speak towards it and about it as a person who has lived both sides. With that being said, I think what I haven't really stopped to examine is the fact that I still carry sort of prejudices and discomfort about disability. Like, yeah, I'm disabled, but I go way out of my way not to inconvenience people, not to make people ever uncomfortable if they am, to go out of my way to explain things, to help people, to like do as much as I can on my own, try new things because I love doing that. But also there's a part of me that's like making a point of like being disabled won't hold me back because that's the line that's acceptable. And also it's like it's a good thing, but it's also the only narrative that you're really allowed to exist in if you want to still be seen as part of the group. So I want to go back to my discomfort with the word ableist. As I said in that video a couple of days ago, I internally cringe and kind of shudder and feel disgust and never actually want to say the word ableism or ableist, or like that was an ableist thing to do, or the choices that that director made in this movie were very ableist. Like I kind of hate myself when I say those things. So why is that? It took me a minute to realize. I think it's because I know when I say that, I kind of temporarily forfeit my access into cool, able-bodied, normal society. If I'm calling out something as wrong as a member of the disabled community, speaking on my experience as a person who is disabled, I know, or at least I fear, that I'm no longer seen as the cool, easygoing, not difficult to deal with, totally palatable disabled person. Like, there are some accounts that I follow, some creators who are disability advocates, and I read what they write, and there's a part of me that goes, what are you doing? You're alienating yourself from the able-bodied people, right? By calling this out as bad. Maybe, maybe do it quieter. Maybe don't be so loud about it. And I don't love that that is my first thought and my first reaction, but also it's an honest one. From an early age, I learned how to be accepted into a group of people I did not belong to. I learned the things to say and to not say, to be like the cool girl who wasn't like other girls. I hate saying that. I feel like an example that really ties back to this is the fact that I have always been really involved with male-dominated things. Growing up, pretty much all my friends were guys, and I learned how to like interact well with guys and like blend in because I was always like the only girl in a group of dudes. And in my early 20s, I trained in an MMA gym before women were even allowed in the UFC. So it was literally me and like 50 sweaty dudes fighting, and occasionally one or two other women would be there as well. You learned the lingo and sort of the rite of passage into that community. Looking back, it wasn't like I was being anyone who I wasn't, but there were definitely pieces of myself that I censored or did not allow to exist because of the group that I needed to or wanted to or was a part of. Like, even though I knew that gender inequality existed in my sport, in my gym, in the world, I wasn't gonna stand up and talk about it to anyone there. Like, if the topic came off, I'd always be like real, cool. I keep using the word cool, but it's the only thing I can think to describe it. I'd just be very like easygoing about all of it. And like, yeah, there are some places where that exists. Yeah, people talk about it. Okay, whatever. Like, acknowledging it as a thing, but making sure that people did not associate me as part of the group that was calling this out as a problem. Because if I did that, I would be ostracized. If I did that, I would be cutting ties with this community of people that I needed, that I wanted to be a part of. And because I was able to blend in with the dudes, with the guys, with the cool people, to be cool girl amongst them, I was privy to what they said about women. Like, I wasn't seen as a woman amongst them, I was just seen as like part of the group, right? So I heard all the things that they said about women. And the same thing has been true in my life with disability. Though my body has never functioned as an able body, the first 27 years of my life, I was privy to those conversations. I was able to see and hear as an insider what people said and the feelings that people honestly had towards having to accommodate for disability, towards people speaking out that something was ableist. Like, I know how some people feel and react to that, and I know that it's not great. And so I think that there is a chunk of me that tries really hard to censor myself and to never say or do anything that would make able-bodied people uncomfortable. Now, I think I have said and done things that make people uncomfortable, and I'm fine with that, but at my core, this is something that I am still trying to figure out a way to sift through. Like, I feel like I have this entrance card to able-bodied society because I know how to fit in, and I don't ever want to be too loud or too uncomfortable or too whatever by ever saying or doing or acting in a way that's a little too disabled for people to be comfortable with. I think I have a lot of internalized feelings of ickiness about disability. I hear some things that other accounts post or disability advocates say about like, there's nothing wrong with being disabled. And I'm like, yes, that's true. And then there's a part of me that's like, no, it's not true. Of course I'd rather be able-bodied. What are you talking about, you know? And something I'm still reconciling within myself. So in the same way that I used to have an internalized sense of like shame and censoring for being a female, for ever being feminine, I do have internalized stereotypes about being disabled, about what that looks like, about that not being an okay or a good thing, about that being something that's different, about that being something that separates you from other people. So even as I run this platform advocating for those of us who are disabled, having conversations about disability, getting comfortable with it myself, I still carry around this prejudice and discomfort with disability. Living in the culture we do right now, which tends to be a big fan of canceling people for anything, I think it actually is really important to acknowledge our own shortcomings, especially if we're going to be creators on the internet talking about issues and advocating for change. If I'm unwilling to take a look at myself and say, yeah, I actually do have some ableist thoughts and ableist tendencies, and I do have discomfort with disability. If I myself am unwilling to stop and take a look at that, how am I in any kind of place to tell other people to do that for themselves, right? So this is a journey I'm actively in the process of looking at and identifying and exploring and examining for myself and seeing what thought processes and what stereotypes have been instilled in me that I can begin to deconstruct. I don't want to be scared to say, hey, what you did was ableist. It was prejudice against people who are disabled. Let's have a conversation about that, right? I want to be a part of changing that, but if I'm gonna be a part of changing that, I need to be a part of changing myself first. And I'm curious if you've ever felt this way about any group that you belonged to. Do you feel yourself censoring yourself or making yourself fit into a certain mold so you're seen a certain way for whatever identity we might be talking about? I would love to hear your stories and your comments in the comment section down below. Thank you again so much to Skillshare. As we're talking about learning and growing and new things, Skillshare is what I would recommend for literally anyone to try out. Please check out that link down below. It supports this channel by looking into it, but also Skillshare is something that I actively use on a weekly and sometimes daily basis to learn about new things. Their courses are fantastic. Also to my patrons over on Patreon, thank you so much for your continued amazing, generous support. You are the reason that I can continue to do this. Thank you. If you're interested in what Patreon is, there's a link up on screen, also linked down below. With that being said, to you watching this video right now, thank you for spending a few minutes out of your day here with me today. You could be anywhere else in the world doing anything else, and you chose to hang out with me for a few minutes, and I really appreciate that. I love you guys. I'm thinking about you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.
Have you heard from the sky all about it? Down the river, high tide flows around it. Through the whispers of pines, I hear them sing. The more you love, the more you live.
Discapacidad Televisión.
¡Hola mundo!
Primer canal de televisión dedicado al colectivo de personas con discapacidad desde 2006. Hola, bienvenidos a Discapacidad Televisión. Recuerda suscribirte para no perderte los últimos estrenos y programas en vivo. Danos un me gusta, y así nos ayudarás a conocerte mejor. Por favor, no te olvides de compartir. Así, más personas podrán disfrutar de Discapacidad Televisión y toda su programación. Muchas gracias.
Soy José. Todas las mañanas me levanto, tomo desayuno y me voy al trabajo. Al llegar me pongo muy contento. He conocido entretenidos y buenos amigos. En mi empresa reconocen lo que hago. Estoy orgulloso de trabajar aquí. Siento que la vida me ha dado mucho. José es mi hijo. Es sordomudo y sus logros son también nuestros logros.
¿Conoces los programas que conforman a la CNDH? 6. Atención a personas con discapacidad. Este importante programa, perteneciente a la primera Visitaduría General, trabaja de manera conjunta con organizaciones de la sociedad civil y dependencias de los 3 órdenes de gobierno, a través de la promoción, difusión, orientación y acompañamiento en casos de presunta vulneración a los derechos humanos de las personas con discapacidad. Además, realiza investigaciones, informes y diagnósticos acerca del estado que guardan los derechos humanos de este sector de la población, a fin de dar a conocer las áreas de oportunidad, coadyuvando con la asertiva toma de decisiones en pro de la inclusión. Si consideras que tus derechos han sido vulnerados, acércate a nosotros. En la Comisión Nacional de los Derechos Humanos, defendemos al pueblo.
¡Hola mundo!
Hola, bienvenidos a Discapacidad Televisión. Recuerda suscribirte para no perderte los últimos estrenos y programas en vivo. Danos un me gusta, y así nos ayudarás a conocerte mejor y saber qué programación es tu favorita. Por favor, no te olvides de compartir, así, más personas podrán disfrutar de Discapacidad Televisión y toda su programación.
¡Hola mundo!
Muchas gracias.
Innovar para mejorar vidas en una región con más de 650 millones de personas. A eso se dedica BECKWITH Lab como laboratorio de innovación del Grupo BECK, la principal fuente de financiamiento y conocimiento para el desarrollo enfocada en América Latina y el Caribe. BECKWITH Lab trabaja con diversos actores de ecosistemas de innovación para impulsar proyectos y emprendimientos tempranos con potencial de generar impacto a gran escala en beneficio de poblaciones en situación vulnerable por condiciones económicas, sociales o ambientales. BECKWITH Lab, innovación para la inclusión en América Latina y el Caribe.
Conectados al cuidar, porque nos mueve incluir. Te invitamos a conocer la línea 800-000-058. Conectados al cuidar. Una línea gratuita de apoyo con profesionales dispuestos a acompañar y acoger a personas con discapacidad y sus cuidadoras. Esta línea también está disponible para atender consultas sobre el Servicio Nacional de la Discapacidad y además orientar sobre los trámites y beneficios del Estado en materia de inclusión. Puedes comunicarte de lunes a viernes desde las 9 hasta las 18 horas. Las personas sordas pueden contactarse a través del sistema Visor Web, disponible en el sitio web de Cenadis, www.cenadis.gov.cl.
Say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie and hurt
this still a thing?
Discapacidad Televisión.
¡Hola mundo!
Primer canal de televisión dedicado al colectivo de personas con discapacidad desde 2006. Hola, bienvenidos a Discapacidad Televisión. Recuerda suscribirte para no perderte los últimos estrenos y programas en vivo. Danos un me gusta, y así nos ayudarás a conocerte mejor. Por favor, no te olvides de compartir. Así, más personas podrán disfrutar de Discapacidad Televisión y toda su programación. Muchas gracias.